It was just another Tuesday. I was sitting at my desk at work, finishing up some reports, when my phone buzzed. I glanced down casually, expecting a routine message. Instead, what I saw stopped me cold. I want a divorce. From now on, please communicate through my lawyer. That was it. No context. No explanation. Just a digital guillotine dropping on 15 years of marriage. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I didn't type a long response. I didn't beg for clarity or closure. I typed just one word. Okay. Then, I placed my phone face down and stared at the wall for a while. The silence in that moment was louder than anything I'd ever heard. The night before, we'd eaten dinner together. She'd laughed at something I said. We talked about taking a weekend trip to the coast, maybe visiting her sister. Nothing seemed off. No warnings. No signals. Just normal. But apparently, she'd already made her decision, and a very formal one at that. So I honored it. To the letter. That afternoon, I began dismantling the financial ties that bound us. We'd always kept separate checking accounts, a lesson I learned from my parents' divorce. But over time, she'd gotten access to several things linked to mine. Extra credit cards, gas cards, monthly transfers. I opened my banking app and started removing her from everything. First went the credit cards she used for shopping. Click. Done. Then the gas card, disabled. If she wanted to drive around, she could figure it out herself now. I used to transfer her fun money every month. An allowance, really. Gone. Cancelled. We also shared streaming services, all under my accounts. Netflix, Hulu, even Spotify. I changed the passwords. If she wanted to watch anything, she could start paying for her own subscriptions. Her car? I was still covering the insurance and lease. I didn't cancel that immediately, too many legal risks, but I noted it for my lawyer. That would be addressed soon. In just under half an hour, I detached her from every financial artery she'd depended on. It wasn't revenge. It was acceptance. She made the rules, lawyers only. I was simply complying. 1 hour later, I got her lawyer's contact via email. I didn't even flinch. I sent it straight to a top-tier divorce attorney, someone recommended by an old friend who'd gone through something similar. I didn't want drama. I wanted protection. I paid the retainer and explained everything. My new attorney began working on my case that same day. When I got home, the house felt emptier than usual. I walked through the rooms and realized she'd already taken her things, clothes, toiletries, even some kitchen gadgets. Like she planned this. Like she'd waited for the right moment to hit send. That night, I slept surprisingly well. Maybe my brain was in shock. Maybe my body was exhausted. But I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I just breathed. Then, 3 days passed. And on Friday afternoon, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. "Is this Mr.?" A sharp voice asked. "Yes, this is he. I'm calling on behalf of my client, your wife. She's run into complications." Oh, so now they cared. The lawyer sounded flustered. Her cards weren't working. She couldn't buy food. She didn't have money for a place to stay. Apparently, she hadn't expected the financial faucet to turn off the moment she pressed send. "I'm sorry she's having issues," I said calmly. But she clearly requested that all communication go through attorneys. I honored that. There was a pause. Paper rustled in the background. Then came the kicker. She needs emergency funds. A place to live. Basic needs. I kept my tone even. Then send a formal request to my lawyer. "You have her contact info." "Yes, but..." "Goodbye." Click. And just like that, my heart pounded in my chest, but I didn't regret a single word. This was the beginning of a new phase. A colder one, yes, but also a necessary one. And I was ready. That Friday night, I stared at the ceiling for hours. Not because I was unsure, but because the silence finally settled in. A silence not of peace, but of finality. I kept thinking about her message. How cold it was. How easily she'd flipped a switch on 15 years of shared life. But more than anything, I kept repeating one line in my head. Communicate through lawyers only. She had made that choice, and I had every intention of respecting it to the letter. The next morning, I woke up to another surprise. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was an email from my attorney. Received a call from opposing counsel. They're requesting emergency financial assistance. I've asked them to submit everything formally. Attached was a copy of their preliminary request. They wanted me to pay not only for her temporary housing, but also to cover the kind of lifestyle we used to share, salon visits, dinners out, yoga classes, even her subscription boxes. Oh, and her legal fees too. I blinked twice. She walked away via text and expected me to keep paying for her designer skincare and daily lattes. My lawyer calmly drafted a response. She proposed a support amount based on actual needs: food, rent, essentials, nothing more. She also pointed out, in her own professional language, that my wife had chosen to leave the marital home voluntarily and to block direct communication. That detail was now working in our favor. That Monday, a formal document arrived, a petition demanding temporary spousal support and immediate access to the house. The irony? She didn't even want to live there. She had left on her own and hadn't looked back. But now, through her lawyer, she wanted access to a property she abandoned, probably just to maintain leverage. I didn't flinch. We sent our own filing in return. My lawyer asked the court to allow me exclusive use of the property, since I was the one maintaining it, paying the mortgage, utilities, and keeping it in livable condition. I made coffee and tried to carry on with my day. But that evening, my phone rang again. I saw the caller ID, and foolishly, I answered. It was my wife's best friend. She didn't even say hello. She came in hot. What the hell did you do to her? She's sleeping on my couch with no money. She can't even buy groceries. You cut her off. I sighed. I'd expected this. She asked for a divorce by text, I said calmly. She also stated all contact must go through lawyers. I'm honoring that. If she needs money, she can ask through proper channels. Like she demanded. But she's scared. You know she only works part-time. How is she supposed to survive? She hired a lawyer before even speaking to me. This is how she wanted it. I didn't make those rules. Silence on the line. You always took care of her. Now you're just heartless. I would have gladly talked things out. But she blew up our marriage through a phone screen and brought in legal counsel before I could ask why. So here we are, legally untangling it. Then came the threat. She'll take everything from you. Watch. She's welcome to try, I said, and ended the call. I stared at the wall for a moment after. It still hurt. Not because I regretted standing my ground, but because I never imagined she'd turn friends into weapons. That Wednesday, something even stranger happened. I received a fraud alert from my bank. Someone had attempted to withdraw money from an old joint savings account we had both forgotten about. It wasn't much, just under $500, but she had apparently found the debit card and tried to clean it out. The bank flagged it as suspicious and contacted me. I drove there the next day, ID in hand, and explained the situation. Divorce in process. Lawyers involved. I requested the account be frozen until legal decisions could be made. It wasn't about the money. It was the principle. She said, lawyers only. Yet she was trying to go behind their backs. When I told my lawyer, she actually smiled. This strengthens your case. It shows a pattern. She wants legal formalities when it suits her, but ignores them when it doesn't. We were now building a clear picture for the judge. My wife was not just in a rough spot. She was actively trying to manipulate the system she herself insisted on. And the court date for emergency support was coming fast. I wasn't sure what would happen in that courtroom, but one thing was certain. I would show up prepared. A week later, I sat in a courtroom that felt more like a freezer. Not because of the temperature, but because of the silence between us. She was there, sitting just a few feet away, looking smaller than I remembered. Nervous, avoiding my eyes. Her lawyer sat beside her, shuffling papers with performative urgency. I couldn't tell if he was more annoyed or just disappointed that this wasn't going to be the easy case they'd expected. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. My lawyer did the talking, and she was brilliant. The opposing attorney painted a tragic picture. A woman blindsided, left with no income, homeless. He leaned into every dramatic word. But drama doesn't beat documentation. My lawyer remained calm, professional, and ruthless, in the most respectful way. She handed the judge printed copies of the message that ended our marriage. Your Honor, this message was sent by the petitioner. I want a divorce. Please speak to my attorney only from now on. My client complied immediately. Then came the bank records. Every card she lost access to, optional, extra spending. Every account she was removed from, belonged solely to me. She reminded the court that I was still paying the mortgage, utility bills, car insurance, and lease. My client didn't cut her off. He honored her request for legal separation and adjusted finances accordingly. Then, as if pulling the ace from her sleeve, she revealed the attempted withdrawal from the forgotten joint account. This shows intent to circumvent the very legal process the petitioner demanded. The judge flipped through the file, then looked at my wife. Did you attempt to remove funds from this account without notifying opposing counsel? She mumbled something about needing help, but it didn't matter. This judge didn't care for vague answers. Her lawyer tried to pivot, saying she was intimidated, that I had created a hostile environment. The judge looked me over, then asked me directly, "Have you contacted her outside of your lawyer since the divorce request?" "No, Your Honor," I said clearly. "I followed her instructions exactly." Result? The judge issued a temporary support order that mirrored what we proposed. Enough for rent, groceries, and basic legal fees. No more. No shopping sprees. No salon visits. No luxury lifestyle continuation. The court recognized that her financial problems were largely the result of her own choices. Choices she now regretted. As I walked out of the courtroom, I felt a quiet kind of relief. Not triumph. Just validation. But if I thought the worst was over, I was wrong. That week, things got ugly. Dirty trick number 1. An anonymous complaint was made to my workplace. They claimed I was using company resources to manage personal legal issues, and that I was mentally unfit for duty. HR called me in. My heart dropped for a second, but then I remembered. I'd done everything by the book. Used only my personal phone and laptop. Never touched company time for divorce matters. I calmly explained the situation to my boss and HR rep. They ran an internal check, found nothing suspicious. The case was closed in under a day, but the intent was clear. Someone was trying to mess with my livelihood. Dirty trick number 2. Her mother called me crying. Sobbing really. "She's your wife. She's struggling, and you've turned cold. Don't you remember all the years she gave you?" I kept my tone steady, respectful. She chose this legal route. I'm simply following it. If she needs something, her lawyer knows how to reach mine. She called me heartless, told me I'd regret this. But I didn't. Their manipulation wasn't going to drag me down. I was done playing emotional ping pong. This wasn't a breakup. It was a legal separation, and I was treating it accordingly. That night, I reviewed everything with my attorney. We decided to go on offense. By that Friday, my patience had officially run out, not in an explosive way, but in a firm, controlled shift. Enough playing defense. Enough reacting to her chaos. It was time to make moves. I met with my lawyer in person. We sat in a quiet office lined with law books and years of courtroom experience. She looked over her glasses at me and said, "We need to establish legal clarity on the car, the house, and the financial transparency. No more gray areas." That was fine by me. Step 1, the car. It was still under my name. I paid for the lease. She was driving it and ignoring all discussions about taking over the payments. My lawyer sent a formal notice. She had 30 days to either refinance the lease in her name, if she qualified, or return the car. If she did neither, I would cease making payments, and the insurance would be canceled at the same time. Clear. Legal. Documented. Step 2, the house. I had stayed in the home we once shared. She walked out and hadn't spent a single night there since. We filed a motion asking for exclusive possession of the property and permission to begin the valuation process. We needed a professional assessment so we could either sell or settle the asset with a fair buyout. But my lawyer added a sharp note to the filing. Based on her financial standing, a buyout by my wife was highly unlikely. She had no real income, no assets, no stability. She wasn't walking back in and claiming half of something she'd abandoned without a second thought. Step 3, financial discovery. It was time to shine a spotlight. We filed a motion requiring complete disclosure of assets, accounts, and any outside support. My lawyer suspected she was hiding something, maybe gifts or inherited funds from her parents. In the meantime, I started documenting everything. Every phone call, every anonymous complaint, every emotionally manipulative voicemail from her friend or family. Dates, times, exact words. I created a file so detailed, it would make a private investigator proud. This pattern of behavior could help reduce her final settlement, my lawyer said. It demonstrates bad faith. That night, I got another message. This one directly from her. A single text that broke her own rule. "You can't take the car from me. How am I supposed to get anywhere? Stop this." I took a screenshot immediately and forwarded it to my attorney. Then, I replied with one sentence. "As per your instructions dated, insert date. All communication must be through legal counsel. Please direct your concerns to your attorney." No emotion, no reaction, just a mirror of the rule she imposed. Her silence afterward was deafening. 6 months later, the war was almost over. Our divorce had dragged on. Over 7 draining months of motions, filings, arguments, and games. But now, I was holding the final court documents in my hands. We had reached the end, but not without one last storm. 6 months since her cold text message, And it all came down to this. One last court session before the divorce would be finalized. By now, I'd grown used to her silence. No apologies. No explanations. Just paperwork, attorneys, and legal deadlines. The last stretch was the messiest. The other side had stalled, twisted, and dragged their feet through every negotiation. Her lawyer kept pushing for lifestyle maintenance, as if her manicure appointments and overpriced smoothie subscriptions were part of our marital assets. But the court had seen through that before, and now they were losing steam. The car became a battle of pride. She couldn't qualify to refinance it in her name, but she also refused to return it. Her attorney argued that the vehicle was essential to her independence. My lawyer pointed out that her temporary support covered transportation expenses and that independence didn't mean entitlement. When the deadline hit, I stopped paying. A few days later, the leasing company picked the car up, right from in front of her friend's house. The backlash was instant. Her best friend called in a fury. Her mother left a voice message laced with guilt tripping and passive aggression. I ignored them all, forwarded everything to my lawyer, and moved on. The house. We sold it fast. A hot market helped. The funds from the sale were locked in escrow until we could finalize division. She tried to claim she deserved more because she was economically disadvantaged. But the financial discovery we forced revealed something else entirely. Turns out, she had a secret savings account, money gifted by her parents over the years, and even some inherited stocks she forgot about. Not a fortune, but enough to blow her helpless victim image out of the water. Her lawyer claimed it was separate property. Mine proved it had been mixed with marital assets, making part of it legally shared. The judge didn't take kindly to the omission. While we didn't get a punishment or extra money for it, it shifted the tone in our favor. And then there was the work complaint. We never confirmed who made the anonymous call trying to jeopardize my job. But the judge noted the timing and implications in the final hearing. It didn't swing the case, but it helped draw a clearer picture. They weren't negotiating in good faith. They were trying to sabotage me behind the scenes. The final settlement. Just days before the contested trial, her side finally caved. Her lawyer realized they were backed into a corner. The judge had grown visibly impatient during pretrial motions. The risk of her paying my legal fees if we went to trial was now very real. So we settled. Here's what I walked away with. The house funds, split almost 50-50, though I got a slightly higher percentage due to her hidden account. Stocks, treated as marital assets. We split them fairly. Support, limited to 24 months. Far less than she demanded. Just enough to help her transition, not sustain her previous lifestyle. Legal fees. Each side paid their own. A win in my book. Aftermath. She moved into a small apartment and started working longer hours. I heard she often complained about money to anyone who would listen. Her circle of support? Shrinking. Even her best friend distanced herself. Apparently, my wife had become more burden than company. She never said sorry. Never once acknowledged the damage she caused. I don't think she ever understood that ending our marriage by text and demanding legal-only communication had real, irreversible consequences. She expected me to just keep funding her life like nothing happened. But life doesn't work that way. The court documents were signed. The bank transfers processed. The house emptied. The lease on the car gone. It was over. 7 long months. Endless paperwork. Sleepless nights. But I walked away standing tall. No Hollywood-style revenge. No shouting matches or dramatic exits. Just one quiet, methodical man following the rules she wrote and enforcing boundaries she never expected to be respected. I didn't win everything, but I won the most important thing, my peace. The first night after everything was finalized, I came home to silence. Not the cold silence of confusion, not the tense silence of pending arguments, but true, restful silence. I lit a candle, poured myself a drink, and sat on the back porch, just listening to the breeze. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was walking on eggshells. No hidden moods. No emotional blackmail. Just me. Breathing. Living. Healing. People started asking questions. Friends. Co-workers. Even distant relatives. What happened? She seemed so happy. Why didn't you try harder? I just smiled and said, she made her choice. I respected it. Because the truth is, most people don't want to hear the whole story. They don't want the uncomfortable reality that sometimes the person you love chooses to burn it all down without warning, and all you can do is step out of the smoke. I kept my job. I kept my dignity. I kept my head clear and my actions legal. I didn't let bitterness rot me from the inside. But that doesn't mean it didn't hurt. I won't lie. There were nights I stared at the ceiling and wondered what I could have done differently. There were memories, good ones, that stung like paper cuts across my chest. Vacations, laughter, the way she used to look at me. But those memories weren't enough to rewrite what came after. She didn't just leave me. She tried to drain me. Emotionally, financially. And when that didn't work, she tried to play the victim. She lost control of the narrative when I refused to play the villain. So what now? Now, I'm focused on rebuilding. I started going to the gym again, something she used to discourage for reasons I finally understand. I reconnected with old friends, people she slowly pushed out of my life over the years. I even traveled solo for the first time since college. One weekend, just me, a cabin, and the kind of quiet that heals you. And my home. It's mine now, not just legally, emotionally, spiritually. I filled the empty spaces with new energy, new furniture, new habits, no reminders of her, just calm. Every once in a while, I get a message from someone who knew us both, asking how I'm doing. I always say the same thing, better than I've been in years. And it's not just something I tell others. It's something I finally believe. I didn't look for updates about her life. But sometimes, they found me anyway. A mutual acquaintance mentioned in passing that she was struggling, really struggling. Her apartment was small, and her hours at work were long. She complained constantly about finances, how unfair the system had been to her. I didn't comment. She wasn't struggling because of the system. She was struggling because she tried to play the system and lost. What she never understood was that choices come with consequences. And she made all the early moves. She left. She demanded legal separation. She refused communication. And she expected me to carry on financially supporting her like some kind of disconnected ATM. But life doesn't bend to that kind of fantasy. Eventually, even her closest friend, who once yelled at me over the phone, distanced herself. Apparently, having a full-grown adult crash on your couch for months while complaining about the world gets old. Her parents, from what I heard, were still quietly helping her out, but even they had limits. No one was going to replace the structure she destroyed herself. There's something sobering about watching a person who once held your heart in their hands now flail in the aftermath of their own making. I didn't feel smug. I didn't celebrate. I didn't say, "I told you so." I just let go. In contrast, my life found rhythm again. I was waking up earlier, eating better, making small goals, and meeting them. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable. I started enjoying quiet evenings with a book instead of tense conversations. I had music playing in the house again. My music, not the curated mood playlist she used to insist on. My world was mine again, and I was starting to actually like it. One day, I got a text from a friend with a screenshot of her social media post. She had written a long, vague rant about betrayal and how some people never change. No names, but enough breadcrumbs that anyone who knew us could guess who she was talking about. There were a few sympathy comments, mostly from people who didn't know the full story. I didn't respond. I didn't defend myself. I didn't feel the need to, because truth doesn't need performance. What mattered was that the people who mattered knew. My lawyer, my boss, my family, my real friends. They saw what happened. They saw that I stayed steady while she spiraled. And eventually, the noise faded. She became just another person I used to know. No more court dates. No more lawyers. No more emotional landmines. Just me, in a quiet house, building a better future from the ashes she left behind. 7 months. That's how long it took to unwind 15 years of marriage. Not with shouting, not with slander, but with documents, discipline, and determination. In the end, the courtroom didn't deliver any dramatic monologue or thunderous verdict. Just signatures, terms, a formal acknowledgement that everything we once were was now something we used to be. And that was enough for me. I didn't need revenge. I needed closure. And I got it. The strange thing is, peace didn't arrive all at once. It came in fragments. The first time I made coffee without thinking about whether she wanted some. The first time I walked through the grocery store without grabbing her favorite snacks by habit. The first weekend I woke up and realized my time was mine. No obligations to someone who resented me behind a smile. No emotional temperature check the moment I walked in the door. Just stillness. She once said I didn't know how to fight for love. But the truth is, I did fight. I fought every day. For our stability. For her comfort. For our future. She just didn't notice, because she was too busy chasing whatever fantasy lived outside the life we built. And when she finally walked away, via text, no less, I fought for something else. My dignity. Now, I've turned the page. My house is lighter. My energy cleaner. The chaos is gone. The manipulation exposed. The silence earned. I see friends again. I take weekend trips solo without guilt. I lift weights not to impress, but to heal. I go to bed without waiting for the emotional grenade of a passive-aggressive comment or cold shoulder. My life is mine. She didn't destroy me. She freed me from the illusion that what we had was still worth saving. And if she ever wonders why I never came chasing after her, the answer is simple. She made the rules. I just played by them, better than she ever expected. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, drop a like, share it with someone who needs clarity, and remember, there is power in staying calm. There is dignity in discipline. And there is peace waiting at the end of a storm you didn't start. Time to move forward.